one more time? Her return wasn't just another comeback story. It felt like unfinished business. Long before Serena struck her first ball at Wimbledon, the headlines had already begun. And surprisingly, one of the biggest storylines involved a 21-year-old rising star from the Philippines, Alex Eala. Growing up, Eala had watched Serena and Venus Williams dominate the sport from her television screen. Now, through an unexpected twist of fate, she found herself connected to one of the most talked-about stories of the tennis season. To understand how that happened, you have to go back a few weeks. Serena's comeback didn't begin beneath the bright lights of center court. Instead, she eased herself back into competition through doubles, using the matches to rebuild rhythm after years away from the tour. Her first appearance came at Queen's Club, where she partnered with 19-year-old Canadian Victoria Mboko. The pair impressed in their opening match, showing flashes of Serena's trademark power and competitiveness before Mboko's injury ended the partnership sooner than expected. Next came Berlin. There, Serena teamed up with Czech star Karolina Muchova, a partnership Serena later joked carried a certain irony, given the memorable battles she had fought against Czech players throughout her legendary career. The results were modest, one victory and one defeat across the two tournaments. But the scoreboard wasn't the point. The real story was that Serena was competing again. Moving confidently. Hitting freely. Showing the tennis world that the competitive fire which had defined her career still burned brightly. Then came the announcement that changed everything. Serena Williams had received a wild card into both the singles and doubles draws at Wimbledon. Instantly, anticipation reached another level. At 44 years old, after nearly 4 seasons away from the sport, she would return to the tournament where she had built one of the greatest legacies in tennis history. Even more remarkable, she entered Wimbledon needing just 2 more victories to reach 100 career match wins at the All England Club, an achievement she had previously accomplished only at the US Open. Very few athletes attempt something like this. Almost none succeed. But Serena Williams has spent an entire career rewriting expectations. The plan was equally historic in doubles. She and Venus Williams were set to reunite at Wimbledon for the first time in years, rekindling one of the greatest partnerships the sport has ever known. Together, the sisters captured 14 Grand Slam doubles titles and transformed women's tennis with their dominance, athleticism, and unforgettable rivalry against the rest of the field. A Wimbledon reunion between Serena and Venus felt destined to become one of the defining moments of the season. But before that reunion could happen, an unexpected scheduling conflict quietly set another remarkable story in motion. Prior to Wimbledon, Venus had already committed to playing doubles at the Hamburg Open. Her partner, Alex Eala. For casual fans, that pairing may have seemed like little more than an interesting partnership. For those who had been following Eala's rapid rise, however, it made perfect sense. At just 21 years old, the Filipino star had become one of the fastest rising players in women's tennis. Her fearless performances, historic milestones, and growing international fanbase had transformed her from an exciting prospect into one of the sport's most compelling young talents. In many ways, Eala represented the future of women's tennis. Venus Williams represented its history. Their partnership symbolized 2 generations of the sport coming together. One legendary career inspiring another just beginning to reach its full potential. What happened next would only make that connection even more fascinating. Alex Eala's rise wasn't built on hype alone, it was built on victories that demanded the tennis world's attention. During her impressive run in Berlin, she stunned 2 of the sport's biggest stars, defeating world number 2 Elena Rybakina and world number 8 Alina Svitolina in consecutive matches. Those weren't lucky upsets or one-off performances. They were convincing wins against 2 of the most dangerous players on the WTA Tour. Suddenly, everyone was talking about Alex Eala. She had become the kind of player who makes fans stop whatever they're doing when her name appears on the schedule. There was something about her game, her confidence, composure, and fearless approach, that suggested she was destined for something much bigger. Back home in the Philippines, Eala had already become far more than a talented young athlete. She represented hope. She represented history. For millions of Filipinos, every match felt like a chance to see their country represented on one of the world's biggest sporting stages. So when it was announced that Venus Williams would partner Alex Eala in doubles at the Hamburg Open, the news immediately captured global attention. The pairing couldn't have been more fascinating. On one side stood a 21-year-old rising superstar whose career was only beginning. On the other stood Venus Williams, a 46-year-old icon whose achievements had already secured her place among tennis immortals. It was a partnership that perfectly blended the future and the past. When they stepped onto the court together on June 24, 2026, they didn't disappoint. From the opening games, the chemistry between them was obvious. Venus brought calm leadership and unmatched experience, while Eala supplied youthful energy and fearless shot-making. Together, they stormed to a 4-0 lead before comfortably taking the opening set 6-3 in just half an hour. The second set proved much more competitive. Every game became a battle as both teams traded breaks and fought for momentum. Locked at 4-4, Venus and Eala produced their best tennis when it mattered most, earning a crucial break before serving out the match to secure a 6-4 victory. It was exactly the kind of performance that left fans wondering how dangerous the partnership could become with more time together. But even as the celebrations continued, another storyline was quietly growing in the background. Serena Williams was watching. Almost immediately, questions began circulating throughout the tennis world. If Serena and Venus planned to reunite for Wimbledon doubles, why weren't they using these warm-up tournaments to build their rhythm together? Why was Venus partnering with Alex Eala instead? Commentators and analysts openly debated the decision. Some pointed out that Serena had played earlier warm-up events with different partners, making the situation even more intriguing. No one seemed to have a definitive explanation. Regardless of the speculation, Venus and Eala advanced to the quarterfinals, where an even greater challenge awaited. Standing across the net were second seeds Teresa Mihalkova and Olivia Nichols, an established Slovak-British partnership that had been competing together since 2024. Unlike many newly formed doubles teams, Mihalkova and Nichols possessed years of chemistry and experience. They had recently captured a WTA 500 title and consistently proven themselves against elite competition. This wasn't going to be a match decided by momentum alone. Every service game became a test of nerves. Every break point carried enormous significance. Venus and Eala produced moments of brilliance, combining aggressive net play with fearless baseline rallies, but their opponents answered nearly every challenge with disciplined, high-level doubles tennis. The match quickly evolved into a battle of experience, teamwork, and resilience, with neither side willing to surrender an inch. As the contest entered its decisive stages, the tension inside the stadium became impossible to ignore. What had started as an exciting new partnership was now being pushed to its limits against one of the strongest doubles teams in the tournament, and the outcome remained completely uncertain. The quarterfinal came down to the smallest of margins. After more than 2 hours of fiercely contested tennis, one crucial moment changed everything. In doubles, championships can be decided by a single point, a split-second hesitation, or one miscommunication between partners. That's exactly what happened. Whether it was a missed opportunity at the net or an untimely forehand error depends on who tells the story. But the result was undeniable. The partnership's inspiring run had come to an end. Venus Williams and Alex Eala were eliminated in 3 hard-fought sets, leaving the court wondering what might have been. For Eala, the disappointment was especially difficult. Earlier in the week, she had already suffered a first-round singles defeat to Belgium's Elise Mertens. Now, another close loss followed in doubles, a challenging stretch that would test the resilience of any young athlete. For Venus, the defeat meant fewer competitive matches before Wimbledon and less time to build rhythm ahead of her highly anticipated reunion with Serena. And as those events unfolded, Serena Williams was watching. When Serena eventually shared her thoughts, the tennis world paid close attention. She didn't criticize anyone directly. She didn't assign blame. Instead, she reflected on her own experience. Speaking about her decision to partner Karolina Muchova in Berlin, Serena joked that Czech players had caused her plenty of problems throughout her career. If you can't beat them, join them, she laughed. It was a light-hearted comment on the surface, but many listeners believed it carried a deeper message. Every player makes mistakes. Every champion experiences disappointment. What truly defines an athlete is not avoiding failure, but learning how to respond after it happens. That perspective immediately sparked debate across social media. Many Filipino fans defended Alex Eala, arguing that a returning legend should focus on her own preparation rather than discussing a young player's difficult loss. Others interpreted Serena's comments very differently. Rather than criticism, they heard encouragement from someone who understood exactly what it takes to recover from painful defeats. 4 days, opinions remained sharply divided. Then Alexandra Eala responded. And almost no one expected what she had to say. She didn't criticize Serena. She didn't defend herself. She didn't issue a carefully crafted statement through representatives or attempt to escalate the conversation. Instead, she faced reporters with remarkable composure. "I have tremendous respect for Serena Williams," Eala explained. "She's one of the greatest players our sport has ever seen. Any advice or perspective she shares comes from experience very few people will ever have. If there's something I can learn from that, I'm grateful." The room fell silent. It wasn't simply because of what she said. It was because of how she said it. There was no trace of resentment. No frustration. Only maturity. For a 21-year-old athlete facing one of the biggest moments of her career, it was a response that impressed many throughout the tennis world. Eala also addressed another topic that had generated widespread discussion, the decision to partner Venus Williams before Wimbledon. Rumors had suggested the arrangement somehow reflected tension surrounding the Williams sisters' long-awaited doubles reunion. Eala dismissed that idea entirely. Playing alongside Venus Williams, she explained, had been one of the greatest honors of her career. Growing up, she had admired both Venus and Serena as role models, never imagining that one day she would stand on the same side of the net as one of her childhood heroes. For her, the experience wasn't about headlines or controversy. It was about learning from a legend whose influence had helped shape generations of tennis players. Regardless of the result, those memories were something she knew she would carry with her for the rest of her career. Sharing the court with Venus Williams, even for one tournament, was something Alexandra Eala never imagined growing up. "It was a dream come true," she said. "I grew up watching Venus and Serena. To play alongside Venus, even for one tournament, is something I'll always treasure. I have nothing but respect for Serena and everything she has accomplished." Had the press conference ended there, it would already have been a memorable moment. But it didn't. Because Serena Williams was listening. And when she finally responded, she delivered the moment that captured the attention of the entire tennis world. "She's a special player," Serena said. The words were simple. Yet they carried the weight of one of the greatest champions the sport has ever known. "I've been watching her," Serena continued. "Everyone has. When she beat Elena Rybakina and Alina Svitolina in Berlin, I paid attention. The way she competes. The way she fights. She reminds me of someone." Then came the sentence that stunned tennis fans around the world. "She reminds me of me." If someone had written that scene into a movie script a week earlier, it might have sounded too perfect to believe. Yet here it was. A 23-time Grand Slam champion, standing near the final chapter of her legendary career, looking at one of tennis's brightest young stars and recognizing something familiar. Serena expanded on what she meant. "I know what it's like to carry the expectations of an entire country. I know what it's like to be doubted, to have people say you don't belong, and to prove them wrong. She's on that path. If she keeps working and keeps believing, she can become something truly special." For Alexandra Eala, those words meant more than any ranking, trophy, or headline. Praise from commentators comes and goes. Statistics change every week. But recognition from Serena Williams is something very few players ever experience. For Filipino tennis fans, it felt like another historic milestone. Then Serena addressed the question everyone had been asking since the Hamburg doubles draw was announced. Why had Venus Williams chosen to play with Alexandra Eala before Wimbledon instead of partnering Serena? Serena smiled before answering. "People keep asking about that," she said. "The answer is simple. Venus wanted someone who was ready. Someone who was hungry. Alexandra is hungry. She has the same determination I remember having when I was her age." With that, weeks of speculation suddenly took on an entirely different meaning. What many had viewed as controversy became something far more meaningful. Instead of rivalry, there was respect. Instead of tension, there was admiration. The story that began with a heartbreaking doubles defeat had evolved into an unexpected moment of connection between two generations of champions. In many ways, they shared more than people realized. Both had carried enormous expectations at a young age. Both had faced skepticism from those who questioned whether they truly belonged among the sports elite. And both responded the same way, by letting their performances speak louder than the criticism. As Wimbledon approached, every layer of the story became even more compelling. Serena Williams prepared to return to singles competition at 44 years old, chasing another remarkable milestone at the All England Club. Venus and Serena reunited in doubles, bringing one of tennis's greatest partnerships back to the grass courts where so much history had been written. And Alex Eala stepped onto the biggest stage in tennis, carrying the hopes of an entire nation, determined to prove that her victories in Berlin, and everything that followed, were no coincidence. Whether she won or lost at Wimbledon almost seemed secondary. She had already shown the tennis world that she belonged. Looking back, Hamburg wasn't really the ending of a story. It was the beginning of a much larger one. A doubles defeat. A wave of online debate. A press conference filled with humility. A legend recognizing greatness in the next generation. Together, those moments revealed something that scoreboards never can. Alex Eala chose humility when she could have chosen resentment. Serena Williams chose encouragement when she could have fueled controversy. And Venus Williams quietly connected two generations by sharing the court with a young player she clearly believed in. The matches at Wimbledon would eventually produce winners and losers. The rankings would continue.